I cannot stop thinking about the sheer suffocating tension of that dinner table scene.
Yeah.
Like May 15, 1993.
Oh, yeah. It's palpable.
Right. You have this family sitting around a table in Chicago,
Yeah.
and they're just picking at this cold stir fry. And the silence in that room, it must have been absolutely deafening.
It's the kind of silence that has like a physical weight to it. The
Yeah.
kind where everyone at the table knows everything is about to break, but nobody wants to be the one to actually strike the match.
Exactly. Because just days prior to this dinner, the dad, Leon, he was doing something completely mundane.
It's just household chores.
Yeah, he's up in the crawl space checking the insulation, and he shines his flashlight, and he finds this dusty, unlabeled VHS tape hidden away.
Oh, man.
And he just brings it downstairs, walks into the kitchen, and drops it on the counter.
And that physical object, just that piece of plastic, it immediately becomes the epicenter of an emotional earthquake for this family. Angela, the mother, she takes one look at it and she just freezes. Like, she suspects what it is, but she absolutely cannot bring herself to watch it.
Right, so she makes Leon watch it, which is just wow.
Yeah, she makes him do it. So he goes into the living room, puts it in the VCR, comes back a few minutes later, drops it on the counter again, and just says, yes, it's that.
Yes, it's that. He can't even say the word out loud.
That being gay pornography.
Oh.
And to really understand the gravity of this moment, for you listening to this, you have to look at the immense pressure cooker this family has been living in.
Oh, sure.
This isn't just like a normal family finding a secret stash of porn. For almost 2 decades, Angela has built her entire existence around a very specific, highly curated image of success.
The ultimate immigrant success story.
Exactly. She and Leon came to America from Taiwan in the 1960s with literally nothing. They clawed their way up. They built a thriving dental practice.
And both of their sons are in dental school at this point, right?
Yep.
They are quite literally constructing a state-of-the-art family clinic in Chicago.
Yeah.
Where the boys are supposed to inherit the business. I mean, the narrative was entirely written.
It's completely mapped out. It's the American dream, precision engineered to the millimeter. But then, there's this dinner.
Right.
Christopher, the younger son, is home visiting from dental school down in Louisville. And Angela finally corners him about the tape.
She can't hold it in anymore.
No, she just asks him. She says, Christopher, are you still... And she trails off. And he doesn't flinch.
Not at all.
He just sits up straight, looks her dead in the eye, and says, yes, I am. I am gay.
And the contrast in their reactions in that split second, it is one of the most fascinating psychological studies you could ever look at.
It really is.
Because for Angela, her entire universe is undergoing a catastrophic internal collapse.
Oh, completely.
Her dreams of the family practice, her social standing in their community, this pristine facade she has spent 20 years building to basically mask a deeply unhappy marriage, it all just vaporizes instantly. I keep picturing it like a bomb going off in a house. You have 2 people in the exact same room when the explosive detonates.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. And one person, Angela, is utterly destroyed by the blast. Like shrapnel everywhere, the roof caves in, the foundation is shattered.
Yeah.
But the other person, Christopher, he's just relieved that the ticking sound he's been listening to his entire life has finally stopped.
The relief of the detonation. I love that framing because from Christopher's perspective, this isn't a disaster at all. It's liberation.
Finally, the secret is out.
Exactly. He has been harboring this secret since he was a kid. He's been through what he internally calls this Chinese mother guilt trip drama his whole life. And he's spent the last year secretly living a totally different life down in Louisville.
The double life.
Yeah. He's a dental student by day, but by night he's bartending at gay clubs. He's finding a community that actually accepts him.
But wait, we have to look at the part where Angela issues the ultimatum. Because this is where the narrative splits so violently.
Yes, the ultimatum.
She is panicking, right? She tells him, you must choose. You must choose the family or choose homosexuality. Now, in her mind, she thinks this is a wake-up call.
Oh, she totally thinks she holds all the cards.
Right. She thinks he'll look at the $1 million dental practice, the legacy, the financial security, and he'll just snap out of it.
It's a classic control tactic born out of absolute desperation. She assumes her leverage is absolute because, well, up until this point, her leverage always has been absolute.
The money, the career.
Family approval. It always worked before.
But I have to push back on the idea that this even functions as an ultimatum. Because think about how Christopher receives that sentence. It's entirely different.
What do you mean?
He doesn't see a choice at all. He doesn't hear pick A or pick B.
Yeah.
He hears his mother saying, I'm kicking you out of this family.
Yeah.
To him, his sexuality isn't a career option he can just drop like a bad habit. It's his fundamental reality. So when she says choose, he hears, you are evicted.
That is a really crucial distinction. When the terms of an ultimatum demand that you change your core identity, it's not a choice, it's an execution order on who you are.
Exactly.
And that's exactly how Christopher responds. He doesn't negotiate, he doesn't beg, he just says, it's not something I can choose.
And he tells her he expected her to react this way.
Right, and then he delivers this incredibly cutting final blow. He looks at her and says, I have a real family of friends back in Louisville who accept me for exactly who I am.
Ouch. Just ouch.
Yeah. Then he packs his bags and walks out the door. No screaming match, just a cold, clean break.
It's staggering, honestly, how two people can experience the exact same 5-minute conversation and walk away with completely different realities.
Completely different.
Angela literally collapses onto the dining room floor, gasping for air, feeling like she has completely failed at life. And Christopher gets in his car, hits the highway, and feels lighter than he has in 22 years.
Right, which sets up this incredible divergence we need to explore. This single explosive dinner sends both mother and son spiraling into two completely different escapes.
Yeah, their paths just splinter here.
And I want you, the listener, to think about what you do when your world fractures. Because these two take drastically different paths. One of them is escaping toward death, and the other thinks he is escaping toward a new life.
So let's unpack Angela's escape first, because the immediate aftermath for her is pure emotional desolation.
It's rock bottom.
She spends the night sobbing on the floor. Her oldest son has already rebelled and distanced himself. Her marriage is lifeless and silent, and now her golden child has walked out.
She feels she has nothing left.
She decides there is absolutely nothing left to live for. She decides to end her life.
And she approaches this decision with the exact same chilling efficiency that she applied to running the dental office.
That's what's so wild to me. There is no hysteria in the planning.
None. She decides she wants closure, so she takes Leon to visit a Catholic chaplain they know, Father Foley, just to talk.
And Leon, by the way, he remains almost pathologically passive through all of this.
Oh, completely. He just drives her there in silence.
Which just amplifies her isolation. Imagine being that alone in your own marriage. You're planning your own death, and your husband is just silently driving the car.
It's devastating. But Father Foley gives her a small worn booklet as she leaves. And the next morning, a cold, drizzly May morning, she heads to Chicago's Union Station.
She is going to take a train down to Louisville to say one final goodbye to Christopher, and then she is going to commit suicide.
And there's an interaction at the ticket counter that absolutely guts me when you think about the psychology of despair.
What happens? I know this part is heavy.
She steps up to buy the ticket to Louisville. The ticket agent punches it in and asks if she wants a round-trip ticket because it's only $3 more.
Oh, wow.
And she refuses.
She said no to $3.
She tells the agent, I'm not coming back. She refuses to spend $3 extra because she is so utterly certain of her own impending death. Think about that for a second. When a human being values their own future at less than $3, you are looking at the absolute bedrock of despair. She was meticulously auditing her own end.
That is a brutal detail. Just raw economics applied to a human life.
Yeah.
So she gets on this train with nothing but her purse and that booklet Father Foley gave her, and she looks around the station before she boards, and for the first time in her life, her peripheral vision opens up.
She starts actually seeing people.
Yeah. She actually notices gay couples. She sees two men running into each other's arms, looking entirely normal, just like her son. Her rigid worldview is already starting to fracture before the train even moves.
Then she's on the train, rolling through the flatlands of Indiana, and she starts reading this booklet.
The one from the priest.
Right. It's titled Homosexuality, An Open Door. And as she reads it, she encounters a theological idea that completely short-circuits her traditional merit-based understanding of the world.
Which was all about achievement up to this point.
Exactly. The booklet explains that God loves people for who they are, not what they do.
Which is massive for her, because her entire identity and her conditional love for her family was based purely on what people did.
Performance.
Did you get good grades? Did you become a dentist? Did you obey the rules of the house? Her love was a transaction.
Exactly. She was raised in a system of transactional worth. But she reads that there is a love that cannot be separated by actions.
Right.
And as she's staring out at these vast, sunlit Indiana fields bursting with spring crops, this profound calmness washes over her. She has been an atheist her whole life, actively despising Christians, viewing them as weak,
She hated religion.
despised it. But in this moment, looking out the window, she hears a still small voice say, "You belong to me."
You belong to me. And the thing is, if you look at her history, she spent her whole life desperately wanting to belong to someone.
Always on the outside.
She grew up in Taiwan with absent parents. She was practically raised by nannies, staring out the window wishing she had a normal mother. She immigrated to a new country where she didn't belong. She wanted to belong to her husband, to her kids, but they all kept pulling away. And here, at the literal end of her rope, clutching a one-way ticket, she feels she has been found.
It shifts her entire trajectory.
She suddenly realizes this trip to Louisville isn't a final goodbye.
Right, it's a beginning. But to really grasp the irony of this timeline, we have to look at what is happening to Christopher simultaneously.
Oh man, the contrast is crazy.
Because while she is on a train to Louisville experiencing a spiritual rebirth, he is driving his car down Interstate 65 to Louisville, totally high on his own false sense of freedom.
Oh, he is on top of the world. He's blasting music, feeling like he has finally shed the suffocating grip of his mother.
He thinks he's free.
He's been living this intense double life for months. By day, he's wearing a surgical gown, cleaning teeth, being the professional, respectable dental student.
Playing the part.
But by night, he's this incredibly popular shirtless bartender at the local gay clubs. He feels like he has found his people, the outcasts, who finally accept him.
And we really need to pause and explore the sociology of the 1990s gay club scene to understand why that acceptance is so intoxicating for him.
Yeah, paint that picture for us.
In 1993, coming out was still incredibly dangerous socially and professionally.
Especially in the Midwest.
Absolutely. The club scene wasn't just a place to party, it was a sanctuary. It was the only place where marginalized people could exist without armor.
Right, they could just breathe.
And Christopher grew up feeling like an outsider on multiple fronts. He was Asian in a predominantly white Midwestern environment. He wasn't athletic in a culture that prizes traditional masculinity. He was deeply sensitive and artistic. And, he harbored a sexual secret he was terrified of.
Right, he was carrying around this immense invisible weight all the time.
Exactly. So when the gay community in Louisville embraces him, it fills a massive psychological void. He calls them his real family because, for the first time, he doesn't have to perform to earn his place in the room.
And he's driving back to someone very specific to solidify this new life, too.
Yes, Grant.
He has this new boyfriend, Grant. Grant is older, he's in his 30s, a successful lawyer involved in state politics, lives in this gorgeous estate.
He's established.
Christopher has practically packed his bags to move in with him. He thinks Grant is his safety net, the stable future he's been craving to replace the one he just blew up in Chicago.
He expects a seamless transition from one provider to another, but the reality check he receives is brutally abrupt.
It is so painful.
He pulls up to Grant's house in the middle of the night, bounding up the steps, completely ignoring the fact that he was supposed to be in Chicago for another day.
Just showing up early.
He walks in expecting a warm embrace, a refuge.
And Grant just freezes. There's no smile. He just looks at Christopher and says, "We need to talk. Maybe we should cool it for a bit. You should stay at the frat house tonight."
It's an instant, devastating rejection.
Just boom. The door slammed in his face, his parents just kicked him out, and now the man he thought was his future, the man he essentially blew up his family for, doesn't want him either.
He has nowhere to go.
He's standing there realizing he barely knows this guy. He is completely unmoored.
If you look at the psychology of what is happening to both mother and son in this exact 24-hour window, it's a masterclass in the desperate need for control when life spirals.
Ah, that's such a good point.
When human beings face absolute emotional freefall, we grasp at whatever we can control. For Angela, she felt so out of control of her failing family that she tried to control the one thing left, her own death.
Right.
She planned the logistics of her suicide just to have agency over something.
And Christopher is doing the exact same thing, just in a different arena. He feels so controlled by his parents' rigid expectations that he tries to aggressively control his identity through this new social scene, through his sexuality, through Grant.
Exactly. They are mirroring each other.
But the ultimate irony is they both end up dealing with intense feelings of absolute rejection and homelessness at the exact same time. The bottom falls out for both of them simultaneously.
Which brings us to their reunion in Louisville, which defies every single expectation Christopher has built up in his head.
This scene is incredible.
Yeah.
Angela shows up unannounced outside his dental clinic. Now, You have to put yourself in Christopher's shoes here.
Oh, he must have been terrified.
You are bracing for impact. You just walked out on a screaming mother who gave you an ultimatum. You assume she has come down here to drag you back by your ear, to cause a massive scene in front of your professors, to threaten your tuition.
He expects the guilt trip dialed up to 1,000.
But she doesn't do any of that. She just stands there on the sidewalk, steps forward, hugs him, and says, "I just came to tell you that I love you. I love you no matter what."
And his reaction is so painfully authentic to a young man in his 20s.
It's sheer arrogant defiance. He steps back, totally bewildered, and says, "You came all the way to Louisville just to tell me that."
He's just so dismissive.
He literally brushes her off with a whatever, looks at his watch, and says he has a patient waiting. He completely dismisses the most profound emotional olive branch she has ever offered him.
Because he can't process it. It doesn't fit the script he has written for her in his head. When someone you view as your oppressor suddenly drops their weapons, it's deeply disorienting.
It doesn't make sense to him.
But the truth is, the woman standing on the sidewalk isn't the same woman who collapsed on the dining room floor. Because after that interaction on the sidewalk, Angela goes to stay with a woman named Dee.
Oh, right. She got Dee's contact info from the ministry that published the pamphlet on the train.
Exactly. And it's at Dee's house that Angela experiences a psychological paradigm shift that changes the entire trajectory of their family.
We have to talk about the concept of Shrikeism, because this metaphor is absolutely fascinating.
It's such a visceral image.
So Angela is sitting in the waiting area of the dental school dean's office a few days later. She is fully prepared to march in there and demand that the dean fix some academic trouble Christopher has gotten into.
Classic Angela.
She's in full Tiger Mom mode, ready to protect her son's reputation at all costs. She wants to manipulate the system to ensure her son's success, because that's what she's always done.
It's her default setting.
Right. And while she's waiting in the lobby, she reads a book Dee gave her.
She comes across a passage describing this bird called a shrike. A shrike is a small bird of prey, but it has a very specific, gruesome way of hunting.
Wait, what does it do?
Well, it captures insects or small rodents, and because it doesn't have powerful talons to hold its prey while it eats, it impales them on sharp thorns or barbed wire,
Oh, wow.
and then it systematically tears them apart piece by piece while they are pinned there.
I marvel at the timing of this realization. You have a mother sitting outside the dean's office, armed for battle, ready to go to war to prove that she is right and the school administration is wrong.
Right.
She is so utterly convinced of her own righteousness. She reads about this predatory bird that impales its prey on thorns, and suddenly the mirror flips. She realizes, oh my God, I am the predator.
It's a moment of devastating self-awareness. The book uses the shrike as a metaphor for human relationships.
Oh, so?
It explains that a person's constant attempt to prove their own righteousness, their need to always be right and perfect, is exactly what impales the people around them.
Wow.
Angela looks back at her life, the constant demanding, the insistence that she knew best, the suffocating control over her husband and sons, and she recognizes that her self-righteousness is the thorn she's been using to tear her family apart.
She realizes she is no better than Christopher. She has been judging his sexual sins while completely ignoring her own sins of pride and control.
She sees her own deep flaws.
And instead of going into the dean's office to argue and manipulate, she literally shoves the book in her bag, sneaks down the stairwell so no one sees her, and walks out of the building.
Just walks away.
It's this massive silent release of control.
Which perfectly sets the stage for a confrontation that happens 3 years later in 1996.
Okay, let's fast forward to 96.
Christopher is now facing formal expulsion from the dental school. He's been spiraling, missing clinics, failing. He calls his mom, completely expecting her to use her influence and their money to save him.
Like she always did.
He even suggests they threaten to sue the school, pointing out that another well-connected dental student got off that way. He wants his parents to swoop in and be the safety net.
Right. Because even though he wants his independence when it comes to his personal life, he still wants their protection and their checkbook when the consequences get real.
Exactly. He wants it both ways.
So Angela and Leon fly down to Louisville to meet with Dean Robinson. But this time, they don't threaten a lawsuit. They don't make excuses for him.
They sit in the dean's office, and Angela looks at Dr. Robinson and says, actually, it's not important that Christopher becomes a dentist. What's important is that Christopher becomes a Christ follower.
Wow.
She tells the dean that they will support whatever disciplinary decision the school makes.
And Christopher is sitting right there. Can you imagine the fury?
He is gripping the armrests of his chair, turning red with sheer anger.
Wait, I have to challenge this moment, though, from a parenting perspective.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't it incredibly negligent to just sit there and let your kid's career burn to the ground? I mean, they have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, years of his life, and they just say, go ahead, expel him. How is that good parenting? It goes against every instinct to protect your child.
It feels negligent if you equate protection with rescue. But you have to look at the psychological concepts of enabling versus supporting. For his entire life, Christopher has operated with the subconscious knowledge that no matter how much he rebelled, no matter how much he failed, his parents' obsession with his success would always bail him out.
Right. They cared too much about how he looked.
They were shielding him from the natural consequences of his actions. That is enabling. Supporting him meant stepping back and letting him feel the full weight of reality.
So by removing the safety net, they're actually forcing him to grow up.
Exactly. It's ruthless in the moment, but it is the exact moment Angela absolutely refuses to participate in the illusion anymore. They force him to face the unmitigated reality of his own choices.
Which directly pushes him into an absolute freefall. Because once that net is gone, he doesn't just stumble, he plummets.
Oh, he goes right off the cliff.
He gets expelled, and he leans entirely into the party lifestyle. He starts dealing drugs, but he doesn't just sell a few pills at a bar. He scales it up massively.
And this is where we see the psychology of immigrant meritocracy brilliantly yet tragically misapplied.
Misapplied is an understatement.
He treats the drug trade with the exact same ambition and discipline he applied to dental school. He sets up literal office hours.
No way.
Yes. He keeps meticulous financial records and ledgers. He views drug dealing as a legitimate corporate enterprise. He has supply chains, quality control, customer service.
Which is such a wild psychological pivot. He takes the intense, hyper-organized drive he inherited from his parents, the same drive that built a $1 million dental clinic, and applies it directly to a federal narcotics ring.
Exactly.
He's just copy-pasting the family business model onto illicit substances.
Because fundamentally, he is still searching for status. He couldn't get it as a successful dentist anymore, so he seeks it as a high-level supplier in the gay club scene.
He needs to be somebody.
He wants to be essential. He wants people to need him. So he's flying across the country, attending massive, multi-day circuit parties, drowning in absolute hedonism and money.
And the irony is so palpable when he goes to these parties. He walks past these Christian protesters standing outside the Civic Center holding signs that say, "Turn or burn," and "You're an abomination."
Oh, those guys.
And he looks at them with pure disgust. They think they're saving souls, but think about the mechanics of what they're actually doing. All they're doing is deeply alienating him further, cementing his belief that religion is just hateful, bigoted ignorance.
It perfectly illustrates the disconnect in communication. The protesters are trying to modify his behavior through shame and fear.
Right.
But shame and fear are the very things Christopher has built his entire club scene persona to escape. So when they yell at him, it only fortifies his defenses. He views them as ridiculous.
He's living large.
He's making tons of cash, feeling like he's the center of the universe. Until the ultimate reality check hits. He discovers he might have been exposed to HIV.
Now, this is where the psychology gets genuinely shocking, and you really have to contextualize this for the 1990s.
You really do.
In the mid-90s, an HIV diagnosis is largely viewed as a death sentence. The cocktail of antiretroviral drugs isn't fully established or widely accessible yet. You would expect terror, devastation, a complete breakdown.
Right.
But Christopher describes feeling a strange sense of comfort.
He says he felt like a hero or a martyr.
Right. He says he felt like he had attained something special, that he was finally part of the absolute inner circle of the gay community.
It's hard to wrap your head around today.
Because at that time, in that specific subculture, men who were HIV positive were often lionized. They were the tragic heroes on the magazine covers. They were the ones everyone rallied around. He twisted the life-threatening virus into a badge of ultimate belonging.
It reveals just how deep that void of identity and belonging went. He was willing to embrace a fatal illness because it guaranteed him a permanent, unimpeachable status within the only family he felt accepted him.
If you have the virus, you belong.
If you have the virus, you are forever bound to the community. You can never be kicked out.
It's a tragic trauma response masquerading as acceptance. And contrast that wild, chaotic, drug-fueled life with what Angela's doing back in Chicago.
Complete opposite end of the spectrum.
She hasn't given up. But her methods have entirely changed. She's transformed into this absolute warrior of spiritual discipline. She clears out a space in her house and creates a literal prayer closet.
A literal closet.
She fasts on water only every single Monday. She spends hours on her knees crying out for him.
She is fighting a proxy war for his soul. But here is the critical shift. She isn't praying for him to simply become a dentist again, or to become straight, or even just to come home.
No, it's way deeper than that.
Her prayers evolve into something much more intense, something far beyond typical maternal requests for safety.
They become dangerous. That's the only word for it. She gets to a point where she prays, "Lord, do whatever it takes."
Whatever it takes.
She is literally asking God to destroy her son's current life. It is fucking insane that a mother has been pushed to a point where she has to pray for her son's total destruction just to save his life.
It sounds horrific on the surface, but look at the logic. She recognizes that Christopher has built an impenetrable fortress of arrogance, money, status, and addiction around himself.
He's insulated.
He is entirely self-sufficient in his own destruction. Angela realizes that as long as he has his money and his drug empire, he will never look up. The only way he will ever look up is if he is flat on his back.
So she invites the collapse.
So she gives divine permission for the complete collapse of his empire.
And that collapse comes in the form of a federal raid.
The Kareem Abbas drug ring, which Christopher is heavily involved with, gets busted. Federal agents raid Christopher's apartment in Atlanta.
They find everything.
They find the drugs, the money, the ledgers. He is arrested, facing severe federal drug charges, and is thrown into the Atlanta City jail before being moved to federal prison.
And when Angela gets the phone call from jail, what is her reaction? You'd think a mother getting a call that her son is facing a decade in federal prison would lose her mind.
You would think so.
But she doesn't weep. She doesn't immediately hire the best defense attorneys to fight the charges and get him out on bail. She is relieved.
It's the ultimate paradox of parenting.
She is relieved that her son is going to a federal penitentiary because it means he can't get to the drugs anymore. It means the cartels and the dealers can't get to him.
He's contained.
It means he is finally locked in a cage where he is physically safe from himself.
Her dangerous prayer was answered. The absolute worst-case scenario for any parent, their child becoming a federal inmate, was the exact rock bottom required to shatter his manufactured reality. The fortress was breached.
And it's in that jail that the turning point happens. And it's almost entirely cinematic. Christopher wakes up in his cell, the noise and the dread of federal lockup settling in. And he looks in the garbage can in his cell.
And he finds a Bible.
Literally sitting on top of the trash.
Yeah.
It's the most on-the-nose symbolism you could ever write.
It really is.
The very thing he has mocked, the very religion he despised and associated with those screaming protesters, is sitting in the garbage waiting for him. And he pulls it out and starts reading.
But he doesn't have an immediate lightning bolt conversion. He doesn't just read one verse and suddenly he's a saint.
It's not a movie.
Right. It's a slow burn.
Yeah.
He starts reading out of sheer boredom, but then he starts actually wrestling with the text. But the real emotional breakthrough, the thing that finally breaches his emotional defenses, happens when Angela comes to visit him in prison.
This visit is everything. Think about the dynamics at play here. He's in a prison jumpsuit, sitting across from the mother he screamed at, the mother he told to get out of his life.
He's defenseless.
He's expecting the ultimate, "I told you so." He's expecting a lecture on how he ruined the family name, the deep, unforgivable shame he brought upon his highly successful Chinese parents.
But Angela doesn't lecture him. She doesn't bring up the shame. She looks at him through the glass, and she says, "I've done a lot of thinking and praying, but I want to ask her your help. What could I have done in the past that would have helped when you were growing up? How could I have been a better mother?"
She asks him for forgiveness.
You really have to view this through the lens of traditional Chinese culture to understand the magnitude of this moment. In that culture, filial piety is paramount. The hierarchy is absolute.
Parents are at the top.
Parents rarely, if ever, admit fault to their children. It implies a loss of face. For a traditional Chinese mother to sit across from her disgraced, imprisoned son and ask him how she failed, it is a display of absolute ego-annihilating humility.
It completely short-circuits his brain. All the lingering resentment, the defensiveness, the armor he has worn against her for years, it just evaporates.
It disarms him.
You can't fight an enemy who has completely laid down their weapons and exposed their own heart.
It bridges the chasm between them. It proves to Christopher that her transformation is real. She isn't just weaponizing religion to control him. Religion actually humbled her.
She changed.
And that realization makes him finally open to exploring the spiritual transformation that is starting to take root in him.
Which leads us to the most complex and fascinating part of his journey, the theological pivot. And I want to dive straight into how his brain processed this, because it's a brilliant reframing of identity.
Right. While he is in prison, he starts digging intensely into the Bible. He wants to know where he stands. And a prison chaplain actually hands him a book that argues the Bible fully supports homosexuality.
The chaplain is trying to help him out.
The chaplain is trying to offer him an out, a way to reconcile his newfound faith with his sexuality so he doesn't have to change his lifestyle.
Christopher takes it out to the prison courtyard, reading the chaplain's book in one hand and the Bible in the other. And psychologically, he wants the chaplain's book to be right.
Of course he does.
He desperately wants to be able to have a Christian faith and a steady boyfriend and go back to a normal life. But as he cross-references the arguments with the text, he personally concludes that the book is distorting the text to fit a modern narrative. He decides he cannot find biblical justification for it.
He comes to a very specific interpretation of passages like Leviticus. He notes that the text says the act is an abomination, but it doesn't call the person an abomination.
That distinction is everything for him.
For him, this is a crucial distinction. It separates his core value as a human being from his sexual behavior. He feels that God is condemning the action, but still deeply desires the person.
And this triggers a massive crisis of identity. Because if he accepts that he cannot act on his homosexual desires, he asks himself this terrifying question. If I am no longer gay, who am I?
He's losing his label.
His entire adult life, his community, his status, his career in the clubs was built entirely on that single identifier. If you take that away, there is just a void.
He realizes that his primary identity cannot be rooted in his sexual orientation, whether that is gay or straight. He concludes that if he is going to survive this, his core identity must be rooted in Christ.
It has to be something permanent.
It has to be something that cannot be taken away by a prison sentence, an illness, or a breakup.
This brings him to the concept of holy sexuality.
Yeah.
This is his grand paradigm shift, and it's brilliant. He realizes that the opposite of homosexuality isn't heterosexuality.
It's holiness.
Exactly. Because if you just say the goal is to become straight, well, heterosexuality includes lust, it includes adultery, it includes premarital sex, pornography, all things he believes the Bible also condemns.
Heterosexuality isn't a free path.
Right. So simply becoming straight doesn't make you holy, it just changes the flavor of the struggle.
He defines holy sexuality as one of two very strict paths. The first is complete absolute faithfulness within a heterosexual marriage. The second, which applies to him, is complete faithfulness to God through celibacy and singleness.
I picture it like this. He's been on this train track his whole life, thinking he's a train headed in one direction. And he thought religion was telling him he had to somehow become a boat.
Right.
That he had to magically change his fundamental nature from a train to a boat. But he realizes he doesn't have to become a boat at all. He just have to get off the tracks entirely and learn to fly.
That is a beautiful analogy. He isn't trying to force himself to be attracted to women. He isn't faking a straight marriage. He is choosing to step outside the binary entirely.
He opts out.
He willingly embraces celibacy, not as a curse or an impossible punishment, but as an act of obedience and freedom. He decides that he can live without sex, just as Jesus and the Apostle Paul did, and still be a complete, whole, fulfilled person.
It's a total rewiring of his brain. He sheds the identity of Chris, the gay bartender, and reclaims his given name, Christopher, which literally means Christ-bearer. He finds a new way to belong.
And this internal transformation eventually manifests externally. When it comes time for his sentence reduction hearing in Atlanta, the courtroom scene is incredibly powerful because the transformation is visible to everyone in the room.
Angela takes the witness stand. The same woman who couldn't even speak about his sexuality years ago, who was so obsessed with appearances she wanted to die rather than face embarrassment, is now testifying in front of a federal judge on the public record about her son's drug ring and his transformation.
She puts it all out there.
And the judge, who is known to be incredibly strict on federal drug charges, actually listens. He sees the genuine change. He reduces Christopher's sentence from 72 months to 36 months, 3 years.
Which brings us to the day of his release.
It's the ultimate prodigal son return. Leon and Angela drive down to the prison to pick him up. And when he walks out, Angela wraps a warm jacket around him.
Such a powerful image.
It's freezing outside, but it echoes that biblical moment of the father putting the best robe on the returning son they were covering him.
They drive back through the Illinois cornfields, no longer separated by glass or bars. And there is no tension in the car this time. The silence isn't heavy, it's peaceful.
And when they finally pull onto their street in Chicago, Christopher looks out the window and he sees the trees.
The yellow ribbons.
Yes. His parents and their church community have tied hundreds of yellow ribbons around the trees all the way down the block leading to their house, welcoming the prodigal son home.
It's a staggering visualization of grace. After all the destruction, the drugs, the prison time, the expelled career, the words they screamed at each other, the core message is simply, we still want you, you belong here.
Which leaves us with something I want you to really mull over. Think about how much of your own identity you base on external things. Your desires, your career, the people you love, the social circles you run in, the degrees on your wall. We all build these elaborate constructs of who we are to feel safe. But if every single one of those external identifiers was stripped away from you in an instant, if you lost the job, the status, the relationships, if you were sitting in a concrete cell with absolutely nothing, who would you actually be at your core?